Hello, everybody. Welcome to the week one webinar. So, the first week, we are talking all about Fat Loss 101. We're going to do a little bit of goal setting, which I will kind of explain how to do it, and then that's something you can go ahead and do in your own time. And then we're going to finish off with talking about our mantra. So, a lot of us within this program are here to lose a little bit of body fat alongside some other goals. So, what I really want to kind of talk about today is what actually happens for fat loss to occur. And I want you to really understand the why behind all the little goals that I'm giving you, all the tasks that I'm getting you to do, understanding why we are doing these things and how they are going to impact fat loss. So, things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about energy balance, which is really important to understand. We're going to talk about the difference between maintenance, surplus, and a calorie deficit, how to create the calorie deficit, and how to achieve tone, because I know a lot of you have put that within your goals as well. So, energy balance, you've probably heard this before, calories in versus calories out. Energy balance is just the correlation between these two things. So, calories in is the food and drinks that we are consuming. Calories out is the calories that we are expending on a daily basis. And we're going to cover that in a little bit more. But I want you to, or cover that in a minute is what I meant to say there. But I want you to kind of picture and visualize these sort of scales as we talk about energy balance, because I think having a visual is going to help us. So calories in versus calories out. So if we first talk about maintenance, you might have heard people speaking about maintenance. If your calories in, so what you're consuming, eating and drinking, is the same as your calories out and the scales are equally balanced, this is called maintenance. So when you're sitting at maintenance, this is when you are trying to keep your scale weight or keep your current body weight the same. If you are working at maintenance, your metrics are probably going to look like this. So the arrow is representing our overall trend on the graph. If we are looking at scale weight, for example, scale weight's always going to fluctuate as we go along, but overall, the kind of everyday trend is going to look like a nice straight line. So maintenance, things are staying the same. Scale weight will always fluctuate, but the overall trend will stay linear, okay? Next, we have a surplus. So if we are consuming more than what we're putting out, that is when a calorie surplus occurs. So basically, we're eating more than what our body actually needs. When you're sitting in a surplus, that's when our body weight is actively increasing. So we're starting to see a scale weight increase over time, not in short term, but over time, then chances are we're probably eating within a surplus where the calories we're eating and drinking are higher than what we are expending. So again, the weight will fluctuate up and down, but that overall trend will start to go up. Then we come to a calorie deficit. So for most of you, well, for everyone that's working within a fat loss goal, this is what you've been assigned during reps, is a calorie deficit. And this is when we are actively consuming less than our output. And that is called a calorie deficit. When we are kind of sitting in a deficit, your metrics will look like this. So overall, we're aiming for a downward trend over time. But realistically, the scales will probably be going up and down like this. So they will fluctuate as we go, but overall, we want our weight to decrease over a long period of time. So that's a kind of maintenance, surplus, and deficit, and what to expect when those things happen. Now, as I said, most of us are sitting within a calorie deficit because fat loss is one of our goals. So what I want to kind of explain is how we actually create a calorie deficit, and hopefully this will help you understand why you are putting into action the things that you are within this program. So on the left-hand side is a kind of visual for you to have a look at where we're actually expending our energy on a daily basis. So this is called your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure. So this is basically all the different ways that your calorie burns or uses calories on a daily basis. Now, for us to create a deficit and for fat loss to occur, we need to make sure that this on the left-hand side is greater than what we are eating and what we are consuming. So this right now might look a little bit complicated, so we're going to break this down into what this actually means. So the first thing at the bottom, we can see the biggest part of our energy expenditure, so 70% of where our calories are burned on a daily basis is from your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. Now, in TrueCoach, in the section that says nutrition and in the document section where you have your calories and your protein and your step target, you'll also see everyone has their individual BMR, which is estimated based on your age, your gender, your scale weight, and so on. So your BMR is a number that you already have, and basically you do nothing to achieve this number. This is just the calories that you are burning when you are just resting or completely sedentary. So basically just being alive. As I said, everyone's BMR is slightly different, and if you're interested in knowing what yours are, it is written down on TrueCoach. But 70% of your daily calories are from doing nothing. So that's the first thing that we need to understand. The second thing that is responsible for 15%, so this is our next biggest amount of energy burn in a day, is our NEAT, N-E-A-T. So this stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically all non-planned exercise. So not your gym sessions, but all other movement or exercise out with that. So that is why we have a step goal, because our steps are our way of measuring our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That is our way of checking in of how kind of much of that are we doing within a day. So that's why we use a step count, because we're trying to increase this amount. The bigger we can increase this percentage, the more calories that we're going to be burning or expending in a day. So the big focus here is making sure you are hitting your step goal. This also includes all non-planned activities. So you'll notice I speak with my hands a lot. So that is NEAT. I'm utilizing my NEAT while I'm speaking, not on purpose. I just happen to do that. Fidgeting, daily tasks. So cleaning, cooking, walking, even just like parking further away from the shops, shopping, playing with your kids. Like this is all part of NEAT. So that's 15% of your daily calorie burn. The next thing up on the chart, we have our TEF, which is the thermic effect of food. And this is responsible for 10% of our daily calorie burn. So the big focus here is going to be the food quality and your protein intake. Now, the reason I say protein intake is because when you're digesting food, so when you eat food, your body has to digest and absorb the food to distribute all the nutrients within your body. Protein has a higher thermic effect of food, which means it requires more calories to digest and to distribute than carbs and fats do. So to repeat that, so protein has a higher thermic effect than carbs and fats, which is why, or one of the reasons, it is favored when we are trying to work towards fat loss. So it's one of the reasons that you've got a protein goal, because the more protein they're consuming, it's another chance for our body to be burning a little bit more calories when consuming the protein. Now, there's loads of different reasons why we eat protein and why it's going to benefit us within this journey, but that is just one of them. So actually, the quality of foods that we're eating is a big part of our daily calorie burn. Now, the next bit, you're probably going to be quite shocked to hear that the very smallest part of our calorie burn is our exercise, or exercise activity thermogenesis, or EAT. This is only responsible for 5% of our daily calorie burn. So this is when people have a fat loss goal and they say, right, I'm going to hit the gym 5 times a week, I'm going to hit the gym 6 times a week. It's not actually having a massive impact on your actual fat loss journey. Only 5% of your daily calorie burn is due to that planned exercise. So it's not responsible for that much, which is why when we're working towards fat loss, the focus should really be on your steps, so your NEAT, that kind of middle section here, and your nutrition, so your TEF. So you see, these two things will matter a lot more than your actual exercise that you're doing. Now, that's not to say exercise doesn't matter, because it actually absolutely does. And we're going to do a whole webinar about training and the importance of it in the next couple of weeks. But exercise is still going to be the thing that builds our shape in our body. It creates muscle, it increases our strength, our fitness levels. It's great for our mental health. In my opinion, exercise is the most important thing you can do for your overall health. However, your steps and your nutrition are the two most important things when it comes to fat loss. So there's a wee bit of a difference between the two. Okay, so quick summary. To create a calorie deficit, to make sure we are losing body fat, our TDEE, our total daily energy expenditure, must be higher than our food consumption. Hitting your step count is going to increase your NEAT, which is responsible for 15% of your calorie burn. Focusing on a higher protein intake will increase your thermic effect of food, your TEF. Hitting your planned exercise sessions will contribute to a deficit, but not as much as you think. And focus on sticking to your calorie deficit range given to you by me and tracking that as accurately as possible. That is going to give you the most effective outcome on this program. Stick to the calories, track it as accurately as possible, and then we'll look at the overall trend once you've done those things. And should be that it works because we've calculated it correctly. Okay, moving on. So a lot of you within your initial goals in reps have written down that you want to look toned. You want that appearance within your body of that kind of toned look. So what is actually happening here? There's two things that are happening to create a toned look. Number one, we're increasing our muscle mass. So we're increasing our muscles in our body. And number two, we're reducing the body fat. So we're increasing the muscle and then we're starting to reveal the muscle by having less body fat, which is going to create that toned look. So basically we're changing our body's ratios of muscle to fat, which is also known as body recomposition. So if you are relatively new to lifting weights, so I know a lot of you have joined the program having never lifted weights before, or you've maybe had some time off training, maybe with kids, babies, or maybe just had a little break from the gym, or you've maybe been doing classes and other forms of exercise, but you haven't actually been following a structured progressive program and training with intensity over time. If you have any of these things, or if you just have quite a high percentage of body fat to lose, then you are going to increase this you're going to achieve the toned look by doing two things. Number one, just lifting weights and applying progressive overloads. And number two, working within a calorie deficit, which is what you guys will all be doing on this program. So you can probably do these two things simultaneously. You're able to lose weight and create and increase muscle mass by working within a deficit and lifting weights. If you are new to lifting, have had a break, haven't been following a structured program, or if you have a good amount of body fat to lose. Now, the other side of that is if you have been training effectively for a long period of time and you already have quite a low body fat percentage, then this process might take a little bit longer because you might have to go through a few phases of long periods of time of eating at maintenance. So remember, that's when we're eating the same amount of calories as our output. And then following that with short, effective fat loss phases. But you're still continuing to train hard, eat your protein, and rest well. You may then have to repeat that process a few times to get your desired physique. Okay, so this isn't a bulk, this isn't eating actively in surplus, because really for the general population, that's really not necessary for most people, for majority of people. But what some people might have to do is you get to a point of your lifting journey where actually you're going to benefit a lot more from having more calories and eating at maintenance, increasing your muscle mass, and then going through a short, sharp fat loss phase and then repeating. So going in almost like cycles. But for a majority of you on the reps program this time round, we're going to be looking at the following: lifting weights, applying progressive overload, and making sure that we're eating within a calorie deficit. That is what is going to create this toned look. Okay, next part of the webinar is a wee bit of goal setting. So I want you guys to do this in your own time. So I'm going to flick to the next slides. I'm going to ask you to take a screenshot or take a photo of the next slides. And then I want you to do this at some point this week in your own time. Some real goal setting for the kind of reps 8 weeks ahead. I know some of you have done this in your initial consultation form. You've given me what your biggest goals are. Things like fat loss, get strong, etc. But I want to really break this down this week and get some real focus goals from you. So this is what I would like you to write down. This can be in the notes of your phone. It can be on a bit of paper. We can go for a mind map, however best your brain works. Take a photo, take a screenshot. But what I want you to do is split your goals into 3 sections: performance, physique, and mindset. So performance goals are things that your body is able to achieve. So this can be things like do your first push-up, perform your first chin-up, maybe hit a body weight deadlift, maybe it is progress to the barbell for the first time, perform your first, 20 kg back squat. It can be anything at all, which is performance related. And what you'll find is as you work through your sessions this week, you might have a movement where you're like, oh, I really can't do this one, but by the end of the 8 weeks, I want to be able to do that. Or you might really enjoy a movement and think, oh, I think this is one I can progress my weight on. I want to get to X weight by the end of the 8 weeks. So that's your performance goals. Maybe it's a running goal. Maybe you've picked the 5K program and by the end of the 8 weeks, you want to be able to run continuously for 5K. Maybe that's 10K. Maybe if you've picked the speeds anaerobic program, that you want to beat your 5K time, maybe get sub 30 for the first time or sub 40 for your 5K. So picking a performance goal, you're going to write down a short-term goal for this. So 8 weeks time is a short period of time to be working on any goal, which is why it's so great that some people have continued with Reps Continued, because it gives them a little bit longer to work at it. But 8 weeks is a fantastic starting point. So I want you to write down a short-term goal for the performance. And then whatever your goal is, we're then going to follow that up with 3 habits that you're going to have to implement in order to get to that goal. So for example, let's say that your goal is do your first press up. Well, your first habit would be you need to be consistent with your sessions. So consistently hit all 3 sessions a week. Your second goal might be making sure that you are pushing to failure within the press ups in your program. And your third goal might be you're going to fuel yourself properly before the session. So maybe making sure that you're really nailing your pre-workout nutrition in order to get the most out of that press up session. Your next one down is physique. So this, and not everyone will have this as a goal, but a physique goal is something aesthetic. So maybe it is simply just fat loss. Maybe it's body recomposition, like we've spoken about in the webinar. Maybe it's building muscle mass. Maybe it is having a more defined stomach. Maybe it is increasing your glute growth. Anything like that comes under physique goal. And again, short-term goal written down here, think what is actually achievable within 8 weeks and what are 3 habits that you can implement in order to get there. Maybe it's sticking to your calorie deficit, tracking every single day, filling out your habit tracker, something like that. And then we have mindset goals. So how do you want to feel at the end of the 8 weeks? And this is a really important one. Do you want to feel more confident at work? Maybe you want to feel more sexy in your body, just like something that's like a little mindset shift of how you feel about yourself and what you want to achieve in the 8 weeks. And again, 3 habits that you're going to implement. Maybe it's doing your daily journaling prompt, which is on Heartbeat. You've got a big list of gratitude points for each week. Maybe it is just consistently showing up and showing yourself that you can work really hard at something. Maybe it's just ticking your sessions off and proving to yourself that you can get stronger. So I'm going to leave this over to you. Make sure you've got a little copy of this, and I would love you to complete this at some point this week, or even just straight after the webinar once you've got a little bit more time. When you are doing your goals, we need to make sure we're working towards SMARTER targets. I'm sure you guys have all heard about this before. So SMARTER stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-framed, exciting, and readjust. So making sure the goal is specific to you and specific enough that we understand what you're talking about. So instead of just saying like, I don't know, I want to get stronger. Okay, cool. But like, what does that look like for you? What does that look like in the gym? Do you want to be able to do a specific task on the daily basis better? For example, do you want to be able to walk up Morriswood Road and Pennycook without getting out of breath? There's a specific goal. Okay, so making sure that's really specific. Making sure it's measurable. So after the 8 weeks, how are you going to be able to tell me if you've achieved that goal or not? Is it something you can actually tick off? So we don't want anything too airy-fairy. We want something that we can actually be like, cool, have you achieved that or have you not? Something quite plain and simple, black and white. Next one, make it achievable. So we don't want any like crazy goals that, maybe you're just starting your lifting journey for the very first time and you're like, I want to do 100 kg back squat. Now listen, anything's possible, but we need to make sure this is achievable for you and for the process. And also feel free to ask me, like if you're thinking, oh, I'd love to do this in 8 weeks, do you think that's achievable? I'm absolutely here for a wee bit of a sounding board if you want any advice with that. Making sure the goal's realistic, very similar to the achievable one. Time framed, so within the 8 weeks, or maybe even going to go for a shorter and go for at the halfway point in reps as well. Making sure it's exciting. We need to get excited about our goals, otherwise they're pointless. So make sure it's something that gives you a wee bit of fire and it's something you are genuinely passionate about and not something you think you should be writing down. And then finally, give yourself the grace and the availability to readjust your goals. So something that can be changed as the time goes on. For example, maybe you get to week 4 and you've already smashed your goals. So maybe you need to make it a little bit harder, or maybe you realize, actually, this is going to take longer than I think, and you readjust from there. So having that flexibility and grace to be able to do that as well. Okay, finally, I just want to finish with our reps mantra. We covered this briefly on the welcome call at the start of the week. Consistency over perfection is what I want from you guys in this program. I do not care if you do not have a perfect week, but I want you to show up every single week without fail. A little graphic here, which I think is really good to see. Your progress day to day or even week to week might look a little bit like this, whether it's your consistency with your sessions, or maybe it's your strength within your sessions, your calories, your scale weight. It's probably going to look like this, because I'm guessing you guys are all here because you're pretty social people. You like to live life. I'm sure that's what's probably attracted you to Reps and the kind of group of girls we have in front of us, which is so cool. But because we love life and like to do other things alongside our health and fitness goals, progress will probably look like this, and that's absolutely fine. But if we zoom out, then and continue to show up despite it looking like that, then our progress will go up. We will see improvements week on, week out, and it's really important that we allow ourselves to zoom out and look at that progress as well. And then the other thing that I really like as just a little bit of a mindset thing to finish off with here is, see the days where you wake up, or maybe you've just had a shocker of a day at work and you have 30% in the tank, you have nothing to give, you're almost at empty. If you still give the 30% of what you have, then you've still given 100% of what you have in that moment, and that's what's going to bring you progress. I think that's so important to remember, that just because you are feeling like you've got nothing to give, even if you just do that one thing, maybe it's actually just taking 20 minutes to make some baked oats for the next morning, that could be the one little thing that you do that day that is still showing up and still putting yourself out there for your goals. Maybe it's going for a 10-minute walk instead of doing nothing at all. That's still showing up. And that's what I want from you guys throughout this program. Okay, that is us. We're going to finish up there for your first webinar. I really hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions following the webinar, please just shout in the group chat or give me a message, and I will happily clarify or help you out with any kind of further questions that have come up. And as always, if you have any questions for the podcast this week, just pop them in your weekly reflections and we'll make sure we get them answered. Okay, guys, we'll see you back for week 2.